Welcome to the Channel 6 News. I'm Jim Kelly reporting. The County Commission passes a public records management ordinance that some legal professionals say denies the public the right to know. We'll have that story when the Channel 6 News continues.
Randy,
I just had a thought. That's just what I was thinking.
And so went the creation of Canyon Country Realty, doing business in the cold of the Old West.
A symbol of strength, a symbol of stability, a symbol of longevity. First Western National Bank, embodying the values of Canyon Country for 30 years.
See the sparkling jewel at Certified Ford, a new 92 Mercury Topaz 2-door GS. Sporty with a 5-speed stick, luggage rack, and 7-spoke aluminum wheels. Comfortable with cloth seats, cruise control, and the comfort convenience option group. Cool with air, AM/FM cassette, and a $400 cold cash rebate. See it, drive it, love it for under $10,000 at Certified Ford, your hometown dealer. An ordinance passed by the County Commission could lead to legal challenges. Here's Ken Davey with a report.
The Grand County Commission took just a few minutes Monday to approve a new ordinance regulating the preservation and release of public documents in the future.
I move we adopt the reworded resolution that Lyle Anderson has written up for us.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
But in the process, say some professional journalists, they may have violated the letter and the spirit of state law set up to protect the right of residents to know what's going on in their counties. The law outlines which records are considered public and which are not. It also authorizes the county to charge residents for their time and materials in assembling requested public records. But the ordinance contains a provision that is, at the least, highly controversial. It states, quote, "County records regarding named or readily identifiable individuals which deal with matters of a delicate nature which could engender shame, humiliation, or embarrassment in the subject of that record, in accordance with accepted standards of social propriety, shall generally not be classified as public records," unquote. In other words, county employees and county elected officials can, in a broad reading of the ordinance, deny public access to records that they are embarrassed by. County Attorney Lyle Anderson submitted the ordinance to the Commission, which decided not to hold a public hearing on it, but chose to immediately vote instead. Anderson said, in his view, the embarrassment clause is not as sweeping as some journalists fear.
I guess that does mean that there may be some records about people that that would be classified as private because disclosure of them would violate normally accepted standards of propriety.
Would those records also apply to elected officials or appointed officials?
Well, I don't think the ordinance is clear about that.
So it could apply to elected officials?
I don't think it's intended to cover that situation.
Would you say that it doesn't?
My interpretation is that it doesn't apply to the actions of elected officials.
Who would be deciding what questions and what public records having to do with different county departments would be withdrawn from the public view?
Well, a procedure is set out in the Act, and it's there are several stages of appeals that are provided for. I prepared that ordinance from a Salt Lake County ordinance about a month ago, and I'm not familiar with the exact details of what the appeal procedure is, but I know that it culminates with the right of appeal to a judge, a district court judge.
Now, you say, in your opinion, looking at that provision, it doesn't necessarily apply to elected officials, but is there anything in the law that indicates that it doesn't?
Well, it doesn't say this doesn't apply to elected officials. But I read when it talks about people who are the subject of governmental records, I think we're talking about records that the government may keep about individuals, and that would, I think, usually refer to county employees, perhaps, and just any citizen within the county.
Monday evening, Commissioner Manuel Torres refused to answer questions and fled the room. But Chairman David Knudsen would discuss it. He doesn't believe elected officials will be able to take advantage of it. He says the provision is to serve and protect residents.
Well, I think that to me, personally, as I read that, and I'm not an attorney, but that would mean that information that does not deal specifically with any issues that the public needs to be involved with and is embarrassing to individuals that are easily identified can be withheld from the public, because the public doesn't need to know that. That's what that means to me.
Anderson said he saw no need to alter the ordinance, and Knudsen said he would back up Anderson.
I don't think it's necessary to make a change to clarify it. It'd certainly be my intention to advise anyone who comes to consult with me about how they should interpret the ordinance that it isn't intended to protect information that may be embarrassing to any elected official. And I also recognize that anything in our ordinance that conflicts with the Government Records Access and Management Act passed by the legislature is not going to be valid anyway. So what we have in our ordinance is only valid to the extent that it conforms to the Government Records Access Management Act.
Information that is not of public necessity to know, that is embarrassing to a person, whether elected or not, can be withheld from the public.
Who will determine what information is embarrassing on elected officials?
What does it say in the ordinance?
It doesn't.
It doesn't say.
No.
I would probably have to have a attorney's opinion on that then.
So why didn't you get the attorney's opinion before you voted on this?
I feel extremely comfortable in Lyle Anderson's abilities. I have implicit trust in him to put forth a document that is legal and binding and in the best interest of all the people.
But Anderson, who said he received a draft of the ordinance from the Salt Lake County Attorney's Office, acknowledged he basically just reprinted that ordinance without looking at the whys of it.
I really don't, I have to confess, I don't know why Salt Lake County put this in their ordinance. They presented this at the Utah Association of Counties meeting as a example of a draft ordinance, and I circulated this to county offices 2 weeks before it was considered yesterday, and made a statement that we would be considering it at the same time at the county commission meeting.
But Anderson made a mistake. In fact, according to Carl Hendricks of the Salt Lake County Attorney's Office, the embarrassment clause has been dropped by Salt Lake County commissioners after discussions with lawyers representing news media and journalists. And Kane County commissioners also considered, then dropped the embarrassment clause, again after discussing it with legal representatives. According to the Society of Professional Journalists, Grand County may be the only county that has passed it. Joel Campbell, an official of the Society of Professional Journalists, says his organization will look into the Grand County action before deciding if they will pursue any legal action against the county. And First Amendment attorney Jeff Hunt said if the county tries to enforce the provisions, it would be subject to a legal challenge. So where Salt Lake County and Kane County, and apparently every other county in the state, has refrained from allowing county officials to consider embarrassment as a reason to close public records, Grand County has plunged ahead and may be putting itself into a long and costly legal challenge. This is Ken Davey for Channel 6.
The County Commission also dealt with other issues at the Monday meeting, including hiring a construction manager for the courthouse project and making an appointment to the Allen Memorial Hospital Board. We'll have those stories when the Channel 6 News continues.
How do you have an instant party? Just buy a sack of subs at Subway. Take them home and serve them family style. It's more fun because everyone gets a taste of everything and no one has to cook. So if unexpected guests drop by unexpectedly or you don't feel like cooking dinner, pick up a sack of subs at Subway. We specialize in solving emergencies with food.
For more information on these and other fine sandwiches, visit the Subway near you.
It's time for Spanish Valley Nursery to have a summer sale. Hanging baskets now 50% off at $12.88 each. It's time to think about Father's Day with a gift of shrubbery or bearing fruit trees. And it's still time for bedding plants like geraniums and petunias. But don't wait too long, they're disappearing fast at Spanish Valley Nursery, where it's always first quality. Imagine it's Father's Day. Now picture Dad here. Now picture the smile on his face as he relaxes in his new Lane recliner, now on sale at Moab Hardware and Furniture. And for the perfect companion, how about an RCA or GE TV? They're on sale too. Moab Hardware and Furniture, your Father's Day headquarters.
The commissioners decided Monday to tentatively approve the hiring of Knight Brothers Construction Company of Salt Lake City as a construction management firm for the renovation of the county jail and courthouse facility. According to Commissioner Manuel Torres, that hiring is dependent on the company meeting certain financial goals.
The proposal is as a construction manager on the project. The proposal that we have in front of us is if they can go through the plans and meet $2.8 million or below, which that's what we had budgeted for hard figures on the construction, that we would give them the contract as a construction management firm.
If they present and say, listen, we've looked at this and we think it can be built for $2.8 million, and here's the reasons why, and here's our numbers. We've said we'll give them, we will sign a contract with them. If they don't, we have the option of yes or no. And what this does is it gives us a head start on being able to try to bring this in under budget rather than have to rebid the whole thing and redesign, where we award the contract to a construction manager and then we bid out every individual component underneath there. If it comes in over budget and we decide, well, you know, we think we can work with it, we've got everybody in place already and we can work that out. Whereas on a straight bid, we'd have to rebid, probably redesign. And we're hoping that's not what we don't want to do that.
Torres said the commission would make their decision on Wednesday, even though no commission meeting is scheduled. The tentative agreement calls for paying Knight Brothers a fee of just over $108,000 for the construction management. That agreement is separate and apart from an additional contract signed last month with Richard Kohler to be the overall project manager. Kohler will receive $80,000 for that job. The commissioners also made a decision on appointing a new member to the Allen Memorial Hospital Board. According to Manuel Torres, two names were discussed, John Holbrook and Ann Poole.
I think the intent of the board, or the wishes of the board, is to go ahead and appoint John Holbrook as their appointment, and hopefully that the city has never appointed anybody else to that board since Tom stepped down earlier this year, and they're hoping that...
Peter's not a board appointment?
Peter is Castle Valley. So what I think the board is hoping, what will happen here is that their wishes is that they will appoint John Holbrook, and that the city will turn around and appoint Ann Poole as their person on the board.
Commissioners also heard from Lisa Wolfson of the Canyonlands Recycling Center Board and agreed with her recommendation to appoint Sarah Marshall to that board. In addition, she asked that Steve Patterson be allowed to temporarily fill the seat of Norm Shrewsbury, and commissioners agreed. And commissioners heard from Arlo Fawcett, who proposed the county hire him to track down oil wells in the county that are not on the tax rolls. Fawcett said he will track down the wells if he can collect half of all the money he brings into the county through additional property taxes this year. But commissioners put off making a decision until they looked into whether or not other taxing entities, such as the school board, need to agree to the proposal. The next regular commission meeting is scheduled for July, but the commission will hold a special meeting on June 22nd. At the same time, they hold a public hearing on a proposed zone change. Up next is the Canyon Country weather forecast when the Channel 6 News continues.
Make Nelson's Heating and Refrigeration your first step to cool this summer with one of their new swamp coolers. Nelson's also offers parts, service, and installation. And if it's appliances you're after, Nelson's proudly presents Whirlpool and Maytag brands for low energy use, fewer repairs, and great warranties. Nelson's Heating and Refrigeration, serving Moab for 30 years, 1070 Bowling Alley Lane.
For all your insurance needs in Moab, it's Central Utah Insurance. Home, auto, business, and life. You can depend on the fast, friendly service at Central Utah Insurance, 471 South Main.
Through the seasons, through the miles, through the rough country of southeastern Utah, we get you through. We're GTE. We're your telephone company.
It was definitely not a typical June day in Moab Tuesday. Gusting winds and clouds kept afternoon temperatures down to below the 80-degree mark. And while it should clear up a bit over the next day or so, continue to look forward to partly cloudy skies through the end of the week. The official National Weather Service forecast for Moab and Canyon Country calls for possible rain showers through Wednesday, with less chance of rain as the week goes on. Look for afternoon high temperatures climbing into the mid-80s by Thursday and into the mid-90s on Saturday. And the long-range forecast calls for temperatures up to 100 degrees by Sunday. And that's the news of Moab and Canyon Country. I'm Jim Kelly, reminding you to keep on smiling.
Welcome to Channel 6 News. I'm Dee Tranter reporting. The Moab City Council hears from mobile homeowners worried they may be forced out of town. And Four Corners Mental Health holds an open house to celebrate the renovation and expansion of its building and services. We'll have those stories when Channel 6 News continues.
Imagine it's Father's Day. Now picture Dad here. Now picture the smile on his face as he relaxes in his new Lane recliner, now on sale at Moab Hardware and Furniture. And for the perfect companion, how about an RCA or GE TV? They're on sale too. Moab Hardware and Furniture, your Father's Day headquarters.
A symbol of strength, a symbol of stability, a symbol of longevity. First Western National Bank, embodying the values of Canyon Country for 30 years.
For the best RV camp park in Moab, it's Holiday Haven, with oversized spaces to accommodate the largest RV and cool, comfortable tent sites under mature shade trees, all with a convenient central location. Holiday Haven is also Moab's finest mobile home park that offers country living in the city, an established park with pool, playground, laundry facilities, and a retired section. For comfortable RV or mobile home living, it's Holiday Haven, 400 North, 5th West.
A A large group of mobile home owners crowded into the Commission chambers Tuesday evening to express their concerns with a proposed city ordinance. The group were responding to a public hearing called by the council on a plan to prohibit the installation of trailers and mobile homes that were built before 1976. The aim of the plan, say city officials, was to make sure that new structures put here in the city meet minimum construction and safety standards, which were first adopted in 1976. But residents feared that it would result in the displacement of current residents.
I want to know why this has come about when there's so many older homes in Moab. They're in just the same shape. They're older. Why don't they do something with them? Just because the trailer house is on wheels, does it make it easier for them to pass this so they can move the trailer houses off? I don't think it's right.
The thing that I resent the most about this passage of this would be the fact that the people who have to live in these kind of trailer houses are dishwashers, cooks, and the working class of people, maids, and what have you, here in the city of Moab, and you need these people to work, and they have to have a place to live that isn't out in the middle of the desert somewhere or up in the river.
This ordinance that you brought up here is against most of the low-income people in the town. Now, I could see maybe if you brought a new 1976 or older trailer into town, that maybe the building inspector would have to check it or something before you could place it. But it's saying condemning all the trailer houses that are in Moab now, it's under 1976. You're putting on all the elderly, the low income, and your service workers, you're putting a hardship on them.
But city officials said there was a misunderstanding of what the purpose of the bill was.
Everybody's kind of missing the point. Basically, let me present a scenario. Say I buy 5 acres of land out there someplace, okay? And I see that there's definite need for housing in Moab, okay? So I go out and buy a bunch of junk. Literally, junk. Move it on there and rent it. Now, do you think that's right?
But I thought the intent of this was not to start condemning pre-1976 trailers that are already in place, but for new trailers, pre-76 trailers to be moved into town must be brought into the compliance. We have no intention of all of you who are living in pre-1976 trailers at the present time to do anything. But if somebody comes in with a pre-1976 trailer, we want it to be safe. The analogy with houses is the same thing. We certainly aren't going to go out and recheck everybody's pre-1976 stick-built house. But anybody who builds a new stick-built house is going to have to comply with 1992 building codes.
I've heard this comment, where is Moab going? That's a great question. You drive around, you see what's happening, you see the old mobile homes, and if we want more of them, that's what's going to happen, because they're coming in.
But while many were relieved to hear that the law does not affect current trailers, it would affect mobile homes in Moab that move from one location to another in the future.
I just saw that ordinance as something good because what I'm seeing right now are pre-1976 trailers coming in where they're tipped on the frame, people having to make repairs to make it even livable or sanitary. And I figured that if they were built after 1976, they would have been built to some kind of standard. There was no control over how they were built prior to that. So that gives us a basis to go off of.
Now, for instance, I'm sitting in an RV park down there right now in my mobile home. We're leasing this with an option to buy. But if I decide not to buy it or don't get the lease again, my house is set where it has to be moved. And according to this law, I can't even move that to another lot in Holiday Haven.
Council members agreed those concerns should be taken into account. They tabled adopting the ordinance until city staff could look into the matter. In other business, the council decided not to give Randy Day permission to proceed with construction of the Cowboy Inn on South Main Street. Day and Colin Fryer are planning to build the 48-unit motel from moved-on mobile home type modules. The law says the council must determine if a moved-on building hurts nearby property values. Day presented a letter from a Salt Lake appraiser addressing that question and asked the council for permission to get back to work.
Any more delay that I have is greatly detrimental to my buildings as they are sitting out exposed, and I have a stop work order on those buildings, that I need to get those buildings from that dry grass area onto the site and get them secure. The longer I wait, the more detriment it is to the building, the more detriment it is to the community, and it is certainly a fire hazard in my opinion.
The council members said they wanted to wait and hire their own appraiser to advise them.
I am not in a position where I'm ready to vote. If I were forced to vote tonight, I would have to vote against it because I do not feel satisfied that we have met the B1 and B2 items in the ordinance itself. And I don't feel that I can vote in favor or otherwise for that until I am satisfied personally with that once that's done. So at this time I would move to table.
Set up a special meeting to get this handled and done with. Because I know every day we wait is impacting Randy.
If they burn down, the impact's over.
And I'd like to, if we can, get it settled as soon as possible, get it done that way.
Because it's my money that's being spent on your holdup.
It's not our holdup, Randy.
In further business, the council, after weeks of study, approved a new contract with Bob Sanitation to provide trash pickup in Moab. The new 4-year deal will increase basic residential pickup from $10.80 to $12.10, and commercial basic rates will go up by $2 per month. Well, Four Corners Mental Health celebrates its renovation of its Moab offices, and Citizens for Better Government say they will gather resident signatures this weekend. Those stories and more news in a moment.
B. Osborne's is the most complete bookstore in southeast Utah. Your complete bookstore for magazines, books, maps, special orders from anywhere, magazines from Europe, newspapers from major cities of the U.S. Need a special gift for that person on your list who is hard to please? Get a gift certificate from B. Osborne's and let them please themselves. B. Osborne's Books and Magazines, 50 South Main in Moab, your bookstore and more.
For all your insurance needs in Moab, it's Central Utah Insurance. Home, auto, business, and life. You can depend on the fast, friendly service at Central Utah Insurance, 471 South Main.
Best Value Foods, stress-free shopping where the service is unbelievable. Four Corners Mental Health celebrated the renovation of their Moab offices with an open house this week. The center, part of a regional mental health program of the state, recently completed a major expansion of their facilities on 2nd East. A parking garage was turned into additional meeting rooms and offices, and a back building has now been turned into a recreation area for the center's clients. According to Director Bob Greenberg, the expansion is part of a turnaround to provide increased services to local residents.
Over the 16 years that I've been with the Mental Health Center, the first 10 to 12 years have been characterized by a steady loss of resources. We've downsized by about 25 to 30%. And a couple of years ago, we hit the bottom of that. And we moved into this building when we were at the bottom of our resources. And since then, we've been able to regain some of that lost ground in terms of our ability to serve Grand County. And that's meant more staff, more programs.
The center uses a variety of techniques in its treatment program, and one method that has been effective and efficient is more emphasis on group therapy.
Part of the renovation also had to do with our increasing emphasis on group therapy and group treatment. And that's been growing over the last several years because we think it's a really effective way of helping people learn new behaviors and get feedback on how their behaviors affect other people. And it also helps us see and help more people with fewer resources.
But the center of the work continues to be individual therapy, one-on-one interaction with trained professionals.
We serve children, youth, adults, and we serve them through a variety of different modalities. We do a great deal of individual psychotherapy, and that's meeting with a therapist to work collaboratively on changing the way you do things. That may be changing some of your feelings, it may be learning to accept feelings, it may be changing behaviors that you feel stuck in. People usually don't come to the mental health center until they've exhausted almost every other resource they can think of. They've talked to their friends, they've talked to their spouse, they've talked to their bishop or clergyman. They may have spoken to their family physician, and they've really reached the end of their own resources to address whatever the problem is.
Mental health problems still suffer the stigma of a moral weakness, something to be ashamed of as opposed to a disease to be treated. Greenberg says education of society is a part of the center's responsibilities.
The federal government and the Alliance for the Mentally Ill have both worked to break down people's misconceptions about mental illness. Mental illness and chemical dependency, substance abuse, are not failures of willpower. They are not ethical or moral diseases so much as they are behavioral disorders and biochemical problems in our nervous system. And we've done a great deal of education. We speak to civic groups. We occasionally write articles for the newspaper and speak to the electronic media in an effort to let people know that when they're experiencing these problems, it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. Depression is not a moral failing. It's an illness.
And if you would like further information on the services provided by Four Corners Mental Health, you can call 259-6131. Members of the Grand County Citizens for Better Government say they will be out this weekend getting signatures to change the form of county government. The petition calls for abolishing the current 3-member commission and setting up a county council. That would be a type of government with 5 district representatives and 2 at-large council members. The petition also reduces the salaries of the current commission and gives local residents the right to recall members through an initiative process. Citizens for Better Government say they have to gather close to 500 signatures this month and hope to make a big dent in that number by setting up a table Friday and Saturday from 8 to 6 p.m. in front of the post office. First Baptist Church will be raising money this weekend by putting on a car wash. Young members of the church will be ready this Saturday to give your auto a shine it deserves when they set up the car wash next to McDonald Restaurant on the south end of town. And all the money raised will go to help send church youngsters to a church camp this summer. Fans of professional wrestling have an opportunity this week to get a good dose of their sport and at the same time raise money for high school athletics. International Worldwide Wrestling returns to Grand County this Thursday at 7:30 with an evening of matches. The wrestling card includes a Moab favorite, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, in a special tag team match, which he is teamed with Tongan Warrior against the South African Colonel De Beers and Playboy Buddy Rose. Also on tap is Little Louie versus Tiger Joe Jackson in a midget wrestling match, and there are 5 other contests. Tickets are $8 for ringside seats and $6 for general admission, with children 4 through 11, $3 each. And for information on reserve seats and group rates, you can call Grand County High School at 259-8931. United Artists Cable has announced they will have pay-per-view available this Friday night for the Holyfield Holmes Heavyweight Championship fight. The cost is $34.95, and for details you could call 259-8136. Well, up next is the Canyon Country weather forecast when Channel 6 News continues.
Summer is here, and with the long daylight, now's a good time to get out to the Moab Golf Course for an early morning or evening round of fresh air and exercise. Described as one of the most beautiful courses in the state, the Moab Golf Course has all you need to get started in the sport, from club rentals to private and group lessons, and a snack bar, driving range, and complete pro shop. Why let the sunshine go to waste? Call the Moab Golf Course at 259-6488.
Alpine Air has just gotten bigger with their faster, smoother Cheyenne 3. Expanded their schedule for timely connections and broadened their horizons to include Grand Junction, Colorado. Moab is now more accessible through Salt Lake to the west and Grand Junction to the rest of the world. Alpine Air, your Moab connection.
Through the seasons, through the miles, through the rough country of southeastern Utah, we get you through. We're GTE. We're your telephone company.
Sunshine stayed in the valley on Wednesday with delightful mid-afternoon temperatures in the mid-80s, and look for more nice weather the rest of the week, but keep an eye out for afternoon clouds. Official National Weather Service forecast for Moab and Canyon Country calls for mostly sunny skies through Thursday. Afternoon highs climbing to the 90-degree mark. Overnight lows around 65. There could be some clouds by afternoon and evening with some strong winds, and there is still a slight chance of showers at higher elevations. Long-range forecast calls for mostly sunny skies over the weekend, highs up to the mid-90s, and a chance of 100-degree temperatures by Saturday or Sunday. Well, that's news of Moab and Canyon Country. I'm Dee Tranter reporting. Have a good day.
Welcome to the Channel 6 News. I'm Ken Davey reporting. The Chamber of Commerce hires an executive director as part of its drive to play a bigger role in the community. The Moab City Council will hear public comment on its proposed city budget this week, and an oil company takes a step toward development of a new well on Hatch Point. We'll have those stories when the Channel 6 News continues.
Imagine it's Father's Day. Now picture Dad here. Now picture the smile on his face as he relaxes in his new Lane recliner, now on sale at Moab Hardware and Furniture. And for the perfect companion, how about an RCA or GE TV? They're on sale too. Moab Hardware and Furniture, your Father's Day headquarters.
A symbol of strength, a symbol of stability, a symbol of longevity. First Western National Bank, embodying the values of Canyon Country for 30 years.
Randy, I
just had a thought. That's just what I was thinking.
so went the creation of Canyon Country Realty, doing business in the cold of the Old West.
The Moab Chamber of Commerce will hire a new executive director as another step in putting together a professional staff. Chamber President John Fogg announced this week at the Chamber's weekly luncheon that Paula Atkins has officially been hired to run the organization.
Very pleased to announce that we have officially offered her the position as the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce. She'll be heading back to Texas and finishing some things up there. We're very, very excited about bringing her on board, and we've given her a monumental task to accomplish, and she assures me she's going to be the one to do it. But it takes everybody together helping her out.
Earlier this spring, the Chamber moved into the UTEX building near the corner of Main and Center Streets and will use that office for the next 10 months or so. The group plans on moving back into the current Visitors Center building when the new multi-agency center opens downtown in the spring of next year. Paula Atkins will return to Texas for a few weeks and organize a move here. She is expected to begin working by the middle of July. The Giant Oil Company has replaced their drilling rig on Hatch Point with a completion rig, and that often means a company is encouraged by what it has found. A completion rig is brought in to prepare a well bore for future production, but by itself it's only an indication and not proof of future success. The Giant well is not part of the Cane Creek Formation that has attracted other oil companies to the area. Giant is looking for oil in another geologic layer deeper under the ground. The Cane Creek play activity is not as frenzied as it was last spring when oil companies were jumping in with drilling requests, but BLM officials here say the companies are still interested. Columbia Oil has asked for a temporary abandonment of their 28-1 well in the Big Flat area, but at the same time they are requesting permits for 3 other wells, and other oil companies are also looking around. Because of rule changes within the BLM, geophysical and seismic activity, often difficult in the past, is easier to do now, and oil companies that in the past may have rushed into a well are now waiting until they receive better information before starting to drill. The City of Moab will hold its official public hearing on the upcoming budget for the fiscal year 1992-93, which begins in about 2 weeks. The budget is available for inspection at Moab City Hall. It calls for a 6% increase in the general fund from just under $1.9 million to just over $2 million. For the second year in a row, the City Council is proposing that no city property taxes be collected. Instead, they will rely on making up that loss of income with the increase in sales tax approved last summer. Mayor Tom Stocks had proposed a room occupation tax on motels and other overnight accommodations, but that was dropped by the City Council. On the expense side, the biggest part of the budget is for police services, with a budget of $481,000. Next is the Streets Department at $385,000. Residents can express their opinions on what's good and what's bad with the budget this Friday evening, with the special City Council meeting getting underway at 7 p.m. in the Commission chambers of the Grand County Courthouse. The planned unit development at Holiday Haven appears to have been put on the back burner. A few months back, developers approached the City Planning Department with a proposal to construct modular homes in a specially planned unit development inside the mobile home park. The houses were originally designed as middle-income housing, but as the proposal went forward, the cost of the houses kept going up to the point where last week they were estimated to be sold at about $65,000 to $70,000 each. But the plan ran into problems, including disputes between the developer and the city regarding open space within the development and the placement of water and sewer lines. This week, the developers, a group from St. George, informed the City Planning Department they would probably withdraw their request for a zoning change to allow the project. Philomena the osprey is getting better and will soon return to the wild, but she'll need help from local residents. The osprey was found in central Utah, sick and exhausted. She was given to John and Marilyn Bicking of Moab, who operate the Canyonlands Raptor Center, where they patiently nursed her back to health. Soon she'll be ready to go, but the Bickings must make sure she's strong and well fed when released. Ospreys are fish-eating birds, and Philomena requires a diet of fresh fish, so the Bickings are asking local fishermen to help out by donating some of their catch to the bird. The best fish are those between 8 inches and 1.5 feet in length, and the fresher the better, say the Bickings. So if you're going fishing, they ask you give them a call at the Raptor Center at 259-5464. And it's a good time to try wetting a line because, according to the Division of Wildlife Resources, the fish are biting throughout southeast Utah. The latest Utah Wildlife Report says the LaSalle Mountain fishing should be especially good. Don's, Hidden, Uwai, and Warner Lakes have all been stocked with trout. Ken's Lake here in the valley has also been stocked, and wildlife officials say salmon eggs are the best bait right now. The water level in the Colorado River is still high and fishing has been spotty, but officials say it should improve each day as the runoff from the mountains drops off. There are just a few days left for local residents to take part in the annual Canyonlands Field Institute's silent auction. The event is one of the major fundraising vehicles for CFI, with proceeds going toward funding outdoor education activities on the Colorado Plateau. Items up for bid range from river trips to overnight accommodations and meals. The silent auction accepts written bids which must be mailed to CFI and postmarked no later than Saturday, June 20th. You can pick up a catalog of items for the auction at the CFI offices on South Main Street or from some of the many Moab businesses who are helping sponsor the event, including the Castle Valley Inn, City Market, First Western National Bank, the Golden State Restaurant, Moab Hardware and Furniture, and the Rustic Inn. And for further information, you can call CFI at 259-7750. The staff of Canyonlands National Park is looking for public comment on how to manage the increasing number of visitors. We'll have that story plus the Canyon Country weather forecast when the Channel 6 News continues.
It's time for Spanish Valley Nursery to have a summer sale. Hanging baskets now 50% off at $12.88 each. It's time to think about Father's Day with a gift of shrubbery or bearing fruit trees. And it's still time for bedding plants like geraniums and petunias. But don't wait too long, they're disappearing fast at Spanish Valley Nursery, where it's always first quality.
See the sparkling jewel at Certified Ford, a new 92 Mercury Topaz 2-door GS. Sporty with a 5-speed stick, luggage rack, and 7-spoke aluminum wheels. Comfortable with cloth seats, cruise control, and the comfort convenience option group. Cool with air, AM/FM cassette, and a $400 cold cash rebate. See it, drive it, love it for under $10,000 at Certified Ford, your hometown dealer.
For the unusual gift, try Sherry's Country Store Gifts. Sherry grew up around country stores and knows there has to be something for all the 5 senses. Something to see, smell, taste, touch, and hear, and give the sense you're a welcome customer. The walls are filled with unique goods from different corners of the world. So for the memorable gift of quality, come to Sherry's Country Store Gifts in the Western Plaza.
The national parks in southeast Utah are growing in popularity, and that means the Park Service has to work harder to protect the scenic beauty. That was one of the messages of Superintendent Walt Dabney, who heads up Canyonlands National Park and is also the supervisor of the Canyonlands District, which includes Arches and Natural Bridges National Monument. Dabney spoke to the weekly Chamber of Commerce luncheon at the Cattleman's Restaurant. The number of people coming to the area national parks has grown dramatically in recent years, and so far in 1992, Arches visitation is up by 19% over last year, with Natural Bridges up 11% and Canyonlands up 9%. According to Dabney, that has a big economic impact.
Just to give you an idea of the magnitude of the money that's generated actually in the parks just by our concession operations, the bike tours, the river tours, and that kind of thing, it's right at $2 million that they take in for people that are going to take trips there. That's got nothing to do with motel rooms or restaurants or anything else, but it's $2 million just generated by the concessioners, predominantly in Canyonlands and to some extent in Arches. So.
The Park Service is a big backer of the new multi-agency visitor center scheduled to open next spring at the corner of Main and Center Streets.
We in the Park Service really support that. I think that is an outstanding opportunity to do several things. One is give the taxpayer a better shake, because it's in essence going to be one-stop shopping, and pool the various federal agencies and local, the Travel Council and our History Association, pool our resources more in one location that the visitor can come and get that information or get publications or whatever they need. It's on track. The design is probably pretty well approved now. Some of you have seen that, and it probably will be going out to bid here in the not too distant future. Construction will probably start this fall, certainly by winter, and hopefully we'll be in business sometime earlier, late next spring.
For years, the state of Utah and the federal government have been discussing a way for the parks to buy or trade for state land that is currently within national park boundaries. Dabney says his agency is pushing for a solution.
We totally support any legitimate way to get this resolved, to get those lands traded out so that the parks are intact and that the school system gets the resources it needs to support the school system. And I think that probably will be some legislative process that will address that, and we're encouraging that. And I just wanted you to know that we think that's the right thing to do. We would not support development in the parks. As I've told you before, I would like to see the development that supports visitation to parks outside of the parks and the local communities, and you certainly can do that in arches, campgrounds, that kind of thing can be out here, privately owned and so forth.
The increasing number of visitors can have a big impact on the desert environment, where damage and degradation can take years to naturally recover. That's particularly the case in Canyonlands Park, where the big appeal is not on road sightseeing, but backcountry trails and jeep roads. Dabney says the park is planning a thorough review of all its recreation resources.
We've got about a one-year project started that we're going to completely revisit the backcountry management operation for Canyonlands National Park. Our visitation, as I pointed out a while ago, is about 9% year to date, but it's been in the double digits in the past. It probably will be again. And a lot of that also impacts our backcountry resources, whether that's four-wheel drive use, mountain bike use, hiking, horse use, or whatever it is. It's an impact, and it's growing steadily. And we're asking you and anyone else that wants to input on that. We're going to address all kinds of issues, from how to reduce the impacts in different areas, to looking at reservation systems all over the parks, to additional need for concession operations. Rock climbing is a big issue right now, and it's one that we have to get a hold of not only here but in a lot of national park areas. Low-flying aircraft, solitude, sanitation. I look at this being a document that we'll use to address use of the backcountry probably for the next 10 or 15 years. And we need to get a handle on it now before we have really tough problems back there, problems that'll take years to try to rehab.
For more information on the Canyonlands Backcountry Management Plan, you can call the Park Service at 259-7164. United Artists Cable has announced they will have pay-per-view available this Friday night for the Holyfield Holmes Heavyweight Championship fight. The cost is $34.95, and for details you can call United Artists Cable at 259-8136. And the First Baptist Church will be raising money this weekend by putting on a car wash. Young members of the church will be ready this Saturday to give your auto the shine it deserves when they set up the car wash next to the McDonald's restaurant on the south end of town. And all the money raised will go to help send church youngsters to church camp this summer. Up next is the Canyon Country weather forecast when the Channel 6 News continues.
If it's housewares, fabrics, or school supplies you need, think Sprouse. If it's bed and bath items or health and beauty aids you're looking for, think Sprouse. For greeting cards, footwear, or toys, think Sprouse. For more values more often, think Sprouse. Now for extra savings, look for these special tags: Manager's Special Purchases, Jackpot Buys, and Discount Food and Snacks. Sprouse.
How do you have an instant party? Just buy a sack of subs at Subway. Take them home and serve them family style. It's more fun because everyone gets a taste of everything and no one has to cook. So if unexpected guests drop by unexpectedly or you don't feel like cooking dinner, pick up a sack of subs at Subway. We specialize in solving emergencies with food.
For more information on these and other fine sandwiches, visit the Subway near you.
Through the seasons, through the miles, through the rough country of southeastern Utah, we get you through. We're GTE. We're your telephone company.
Sunshine stayed in the valley on Thursday, and the heat was back with mid-afternoon temperatures in the mid-90s. And look for more sunshine the rest of the week, but with a chance of some late afternoon and evening clouds. The official National Weather Service forecast for Moab and Canyon Country calls for mostly sunny skies through Friday, with afternoon highs climbing to the 95-degree mark and overnight lows around 65. There could be some clouds in the late afternoon and evenings with some strong winds and a chance of some showers, especially at higher elevations. The long-range forecast calls for mostly sunny skies through the weekend, highs in the mid-90s with a chance of 100-degree temperatures by Sunday. And that's the news of Moab and Canyon Country. I'm Ken Davey reporting. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome to the Channel 6 News. I'm Tricia Maroney reporting. A tragedy is averted when an emergency parachute helps a hang glider escape death at Dead Horse Point State Park. Grand County citizens say their petition drive to change the form of government is getting a positive response. And a zoologist from Arizona condemns the BLM as failing to live up to their responsibilities by allowing grazing in southeast Utah canyons. We'll have those stories when the Channel 6 News continues.
Alpine Air has just gotten bigger with their faster, smoother Cheyenne 3. Expanded their schedule for timely connections and broadened their horizons to include Grand Junction, Colorado. Moab is now more accessible through Salt Lake to the west and Grand Junction to the rest of the world. Alpine Air, your Moab connection.
For the best RV camp park in Moab, it's Holiday Haven, with oversized spaces to accommodate the largest RV and cool, comfortable tent sites under mature shade trees, all with a convenient central location. Holiday Haven is also Moab's finest mobile home park that offers country living in the city, an established park with pool, playground, laundry facilities, and a retired section. For comfortable RV or mobile home living, it's Holiday Haven, 400 North, 5th West.
A symbol of strength, a symbol of stability, a symbol of longevity. First Western National Bank, embodying the values of Canyon Country for 30 years.
An emergency parachute, the efficient work of the Grand County Search and Rescue Team, and luck were the only things that prevented a tragedy Thursday after a hang gliding accident near Dead Horse Point State Park. 27-year-old Charles Cousin from Los Angeles, California, took his hang glider off the cliff from the state park. National Park Service Island in the Sky Ranger Steve Swanky explained what happened.
At about 4:30 this afternoon, National Park Service Rangers received a call of a hang gliding accident at Dead Horse Point State Park. The initial call was that there was a hang glider stuck in the middle of the cliff. Park Rangers responded to Dead Horse Point via the Schaefer Trail, hiked up Talus Slopes to the base of Dead Horse Point, where they encountered a 27-year-old male from Los Angeles, California. He took off and he had descended about 10 feet when his hang glider came into contact with the rock wall. The hang glider was stuck on a rock ledge for a period of time. In essence, he was dangling in midair. The Wingate Cliff on Dead Horse Point is about 700 feet high. After being stuck on the rock ledge without security for a period of time, the hang glider let loose and he free fell approximately 200 feet until his parachute deployed. When the parachute deployed, he then parachuted to the ground where he had a hard landing in a talus slope. There were boulders that would be as large as a pickup truck in this talus slope.
The victim was experienced in hang gliding and, according to the state park officials, had all the right equipment and skills for the sport.
This particular subject was an expert hang glider. He had over 600 hang glides to his credit. As a matter of fact, he did successfully deploy his hang glider off of Dead Horse Point yesterday.
It was a tough rescue attempt, too far down to come in from the top and too far up to hike from the bottom.
There were several options that were considered for the rescue. One would have been to rappel 700 feet down the cliff at Dead Horse Point and to raise the subject up the cliff. You'd be dealing with loose rock and a potentially hazardous operation. Another option was to hike up to him and to do a scree slope litter evacuation, which probably would have involved 14 people minimum and would have been approximately a 10-hour operation. The third alternative and the preferred alternative in this case was to bring Air Life helicopter in. The subject was mobile and able to walk, and there was a good landing zone approximately 1/8 of a mile from the point of impact. So it took the subject about half an hour to walk from the point of impact to the Air Life helicopter.
The St. Mary's Lifeline helicopter is used for flying patients to Grand Junction, and it is not usually set up for rescues, but it was able to find a place near enough to allow search and rescue crews to get in. It was the 31st rescue this year for the search and rescue team, and so far there have been no fatalities, though there have been some very close calls, including this accident Thursday. Members of the Citizens for Better Government say they are well on their way to gathering enough signatures to place the Change of Government initiative on the ballot, possibly as soon as this November. That was the word Friday as the group set up a table in front of the post office. The Change of Government proposition needs about 450 signatures of registered county voters. The petitions will be turned over to the county clerk's office, which will check the validity of the names. If they meet the minimum required, the initiative then goes to the county commission, which decides when, over the next 18 months, the plan goes to the voters. Commissioners here have said if the initiative gets the signatures, they will put it on the ballot this year. Bob Hoffman was one of the group members working Friday morning at the table. He said the response from residents was positive.
The petitioning's been going quite well. We've got maybe 50 between 8 and 10 o'clock this morning, and we've been getting, maybe about another 45, 50 in the last 2 hours.
So you've been getting close to 100 names in the first 4 hours?
Yeah, if it goes on at the same rate, that would be tremendous. The people coming up to the table seem very positive. We have not had any heated discussions with anybody. Everybody seems quite friendly. There's people that do go by. They've, of course, made up their mind, and they may or may not be interested.
The reorganized county plan abolishes the current 3-member county commission and replaces it with 7 members of a county council type of body. 5 of those members will be elected from districts and with 2 at-large members. We asked Hoffman what issues people have brought up to him at the table.
Probably the fact that there will be better representation, having 7 people instead of 3. that they will have their own city, a county councilman. They do have a recall capability after 6 months, that it is a part-time policy-making job, that it is independent. They don't have to go through the Republican or the Democratic Party.
There have been some people who've said that 7 may be too many. Have they been coming up to the table and
Yes.
expressing that?
Yeah. I've also found I ran into that when I was out walking. 7 is a difficult thing, but you get more representation. If you have a person running it who is very well organized, you shouldn't have a problem. You just have to make up your mind what you're going to get done today, what your criteria is, make sure the 7 people vote on and agree that that's where you're going to go, and get something accomplished.
The Citizens for Better Government table will be up at the post office on Saturday, June 20th from 8 to 6 p.m. Organizers say they believe they can complete the petitioning this month and submit them to the county. After that, it's up in the air as to if and when the proposal goes before the voters. County commissioners have maintained a low profile and have said they would work to get the plan on the ballot if it qualifies. An Arizona expert on wildlife says the Bureau of Land Management is not doing its job of protecting southeast Utah canyons. We'll have that story when the Channel 6 News continues.
Best value foods, stress-free shopping where the service is unbelievable.
Rim Cyclery is the hub of the action in the mountain bike capital of the world, carrying the specialized Klein and Mountain Goat brands and fully staffed with experts in mountain bike service. Rim is also your stop for camping gear and accessories and sportswear featuring Gramici shorts and tops. Bikers, here's a simple rule. If you're gearing up, see Rim. If you've broken down, see Rim. 94 West, 100 North.
B. Osborne's is the most complete bookstore in southeast Utah. Your complete bookstore for magazines, books, maps, special orders from anywhere, magazines from Europe, newspapers from major cities of the U.S. Need a special gift for that person on your list who is hard to please? Get a gift certificate from B. Osborne's and let them please themselves. B. Osborne's Books and Magazines, 50 South Main in Moab, your bookstore and more.
Make Nelson's Heating and Refrigeration your first step to cool this summer with one of their new swamp coolers. Nelson's also offers parts, service, and installation. And if it's appliances you're after, Nelson's proudly presents Whirlpool and Maytag brands for low energy use, fewer repairs, and great warranties. Nelson's Heating and Refrigeration, serving Moab for 30 years, 1070 Bowling Alley Lane. The developers of the housing project at the Holiday Haven Mobile Home Park may have dropped their request for a zoning change, but that doesn't mean the project is not moving forward. According to Dar Hatch, one of the people putting the project together, the plan is to put in a total of 94 modular housing units on permanent foundations. The first phase calls for the construction of 19 of the homes. The developers had been planning to have part of the mobile home park zoning changed to residential. But they say now they will leave it as it is, currently zoned, and proceed with the work. Is the BLM making a mistake allowing grazing in a series of canyons in San Juan County? That's what some environmentalists are claiming, and they have taken the agency to administrative court in an effort to stop the practice. The place is the Comb Wash Drainage System, which includes Arch, Road, Mule, Owl Creek, and Fish Creek canyons. The issue is grazing rights involving just a couple of $1,000s over a year. But though the amount of money involved is minor, the implications of this case could change the general grazing practices of the entire federal agency. Robert Omart is a professor of zoology out of Arizona State University. He and ASU law professor Joe Feller have joined with environmental organizations who are saying the canyons have been hurt by grazing and that the practice should be stopped now.
The grazing by domestic livestock in the 5 canyons that have been referred to in the Comb Wash has been so extensive and so intensive that virtually most of the alluvial or riparian soils have been eroded out of the canyon. There is still a little bit of reproduction going on in the cottonwoods. There's a little bit of reproduction going on in the willows, but it's nothing compared to what it would be if those soils were more stable, if those resources and trees were not hammered every time and grazed down to a pulp.
According to Omart, streams and other bodies of water known as riparian areas play a crucial role in the balance of nature within the desert ecosystem.
Riparian habitats in the West are the major habitat for wildlife. They are the major habitat for migrant birds, neotropical migrants as we refer to them. 70% of our wildlife in the West is obligate to these habitats. So if we eliminate them or degrade them or destroy them, we can essentially lose 70% of our species right off the top. So it's incumbent upon BLM to manage those habitats in a responsible manner. They have not done it in most states in the West, and our hope is that we can get them to follow their rules and their regulations and manage these habitats for the benefit of wildlife and mankind.
Omar believes strongly that if given a chance, the damage he claims has been done to the canyons can be repaired.
It's not too late in that they will come back. For example, I've been into Grand Gulch. It has not been grazed now in 20 years. It is a classical example of healing of riparian habitats. They're much more responsive, they're much more resilient than the dry uplands because they have water in them. And with time, some of those canyons will be perennial streams. Now they're intermittent streams only running part of the year, but the soils that hold the water, the soils that feed the stream have essentially been eliminated. There's plenty of soils to replace those, but you've got to give them an opportunity to heal. You've got to give vegetation an opportunity to recolonize new soils as they're brought into the system through the flooding process.
While the sides seem to be ranching versus environmentalism, Omar wants to focus his fire on the Bureau of Land Management, which he feels has failed in its legal responsibility to act as steward of the land.
During this time period with the permittees, they evolved to, when the permittee hollered froggy, they started jumping. When the permittee hollered bend over, they started bending over. Only until 1976, when the Organic Act was passed that gave them full responsibility for managing those lands, really did they have true management responsibility. No one has noticed the passage of that law in BLM. The public has not really noticed. As of late, the public is beginning to notice. The public is becoming more observant, more concerned about the natural resources on our public lands. And I think BLM is now caught in a tremendous squeeze by the permittee who's used to and conditioned to getting his way, and BLM who is used to and conditioned to submitting, and all of a sudden a public that is expecting responsible stewardship of our public lands.
But the BLM disagrees completely. They have presented their own witnesses to contradict the views of Omar, including Catherine Vandemore, a PhD in hydrology. But the agency says that since the issue is in administrative court now, they feel it would be inappropriate to make a public comment on the issue. And Moab District BLM employees declined an invitation to present their side of the issue. But they say that once the legal action is completed, they will be available to discuss it. The First Baptist Church will be raising money this weekend by putting on a car wash. Young members of the church will be ready this Saturday to give your auto the shine it deserves when they set up the car wash next to the McDonald's restaurant on the south end of town. And all the money raised will go to help send church youngsters to church camp this summer. Up next is the Canyon Country weather forecast when Channel 6 News continues.
Summer is here, and with the long daylight, now's a good time to get out to the Moab Golf Course for an early morning or evening round of fresh air and exercise. Described as one of the most beautiful courses in the state, the Moab Golf Course has all you need to get started in the sport, from club rentals to private and group lessons, and a snack bar, driving range, and complete pro shop. Why let the sunshine go to waste? Call the Moab Golf Course at 259-6488.
Today is a very good day. You've got a new set of wheels and a license to drive. You, my friend, are on a roll. Can your life get better than this? You bet your spandex because you're going to McDonald's to wheel some delicious deals. Only 59 cents for a regular hamburger, 69-cent cheeseburger, and 99 cents for a chicken fajitas or breakfast burrito. Wow. You ask someone to pinch you. Ah, a volunteer. Yes, your life is good. And at these prices, it only gets better at McDonald's today.
Through the seasons, through the miles, through the rough country of southeastern Utah, we get you through. We're GTE. We're your telephone company. The first half of June was cool here in Moab, but it looks now that the second half will make up for that with a heat wave. It hit 100 degrees Thursday and Friday with overnight lows down in the mid-50s. And look for the heat to continue through the weekend and into next week. The official National Weather Service forecast for Moab and Canyon Country calls for partly cloudy skies through Monday. Look for afternoon highs ranging from the mid-90s on up and overnight lows in the 60s. There should be some afternoon clouds and a chance of some late afternoon and evening thunder showers at higher elevations, but for the most part, look for sunshine, heat, and dry winds, humidity around the 20% level. And that's the news of Moab and Canyon Country. I'm Tricia Maroney reporting.
Welcome to the Channel 6 News. I'm Dee Tranter reporting. The Moab City Council passes a budget calling for a 6% spending increase. Grand County Citizens for Better Government say they have just about enough signatures to put the Change of Government initiative on the ballot. And high school students are honored for achieving perfect 4.0 grade point averages. We'll have those stories when Channel 6 News continues. A symbol of strength, a symbol of stability, a symbol of longevity. First Western National Bank, embodying the values of Canyon Country for 30 years.
For the unusual gift, try Sherry's Country Store Gifts. Sherry grew up around country stores and knows there has to be something for all the five senses. Something to see, smell, taste, touch and hear, and give the sense you're a welcome customer. The walls are filled with unique goods from different corners of the world. So for the memorable gift of quality, come to Sherry's Country Store Gifts in the Western Plaza.
Rim Cyclery is the hub of the action in the mountain bike capital of the world, carrying the specialized Klein and Mountain Goat brands and fully staffed with experts in mountain bike service. Rim is also your stop for camping gear and accessories and sportswear featuring Gramici shorts and tops. Bikers, here's a simple rule. If you're gearing up, see Rim. If you've broken down, see Rim. 94 West, 100 North.
The Moab City Council passed a new city budget Friday evening. The new budget calls for revenues and expenditures of just over $2 million, a 6% increase over last year. The council is counting on an increase in state sales tax revenue coming back to the city, as well as an increase in the gross business license fee, or what is better known as the local sales tax. Last year, the council decided not to collect any city property tax, but to increase the local sales tax instead as a way of shifting some of the tax burden from residents to visitors. But unlike last year, the city does not expect to generate a surplus this year. Council members say they may have to dip into previous surpluses to pay their bills.
Money out of the surplus to operate on the general fund budget this year.
And basically, we couldn't, unless we started this process in the month of March, as I understand it, we couldn't put the property tax back on. If we had known what we know now in March, we would probably put property tax back on.
But on the other hand, since we don't know what our fiscal fourth quarter revenues are, you know, we might end up with $150,000 in sales tax revenue. Right. So, you know, I mean, until that information's in, there's no way to...
Our carryover surplus a year ago was $257,000, approximately $500. And as of this afternoon, when the run was made, it shows that we have a surplus of $329,000.
The budget includes a $15,000 contribution to the Seek Haven Family Center, which provides temporary shelter and services to victims and potential victims of domestic violence. Seek Haven board member Diana Messick told the council the contribution was greatly appreciated.
I'm a trustee on the board of Seek Haven, and since we've been trying to incorporate and separate, and I just wanted to reiterate how important that money is. As we looked over the budget, we're really tight. And what we've been doing is trying to pull more and more community members in terms of their expertise to try to help us as much as possible. So our base organization of people and our support is getting larger and larger. And we really appreciate the support that you've given it, because we would not be able to exist without it.
I sit on the advisory board for Seek Haven and work with Diana and the Seek Haven Board of Trustees, and I second full-heartedly what Diana just said.
The city also gave $10,000 to the High School Technology Center, which plans to develop a curriculum to help train Grand County students in skills needed for jobs in the future. The vocational center will be renovated over a 2-year time period at a total cost of about $250,000. Messick had asked the city for $50,000. The city said they could only afford $10,000 right now, but according to Messick, that will go a long way.
We know that's coming and that's hard money and we can use it. Even though what I was asking for was $50,000 and I just got 10, I want you to know how pleased I am with the 10, because it's opened up all kinds of doors in terms of community support for that center for us to get other kinds of funding. And it's really helped more than you can imagine. Plus, $10,000 will buy quite a bit of hardware for us to get off the ground.
The council decided to increase the pay of the city attorney from $24,000 to $28,000 per year. In 1992, the state court reorganization put a number of court proceedings into the city attorney's office as opposed to the county attorney. That has meant a jump in city revenue for fines for misdemeanors, but also increased the attorney's workload. The council voted against giving about $600 a year raise to the mayor administrator, making it the highest paid city position. With a 2-2 vote by City Council members, Mayor Tom Stocks cast the tie-breaking no vote.
I don't necessarily agree with what we're doing per se, but I can see the point that you are the chief executive officer of the city, and basically the ultimate responsibility lies on your shoulders. I'm a little disappointed in the last year's performance, quite honestly, but I think it's in order.
Call for the vote. Bill?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Dave? No. Gary? No. Motion fails.
One major problem the city faces is the possible need to replace a main water line, which tests show is losing its lining and subject to rust and line breaks. Stocks said he had talked to Al Anderson of Montgomery Engineering about the problem.
He didn't know why it was failing, but it has been failing along in several places. Conjecture on mine and Brent Williams' part is that everybody that dug out there has probably tapped it, including our own, maybe even when they put it in, not realizing that they were injuring the pipe. But it is a problem when the water gets against the metal, it will rust, and you could have a catastrophic break in it, similar to the one we had. So he feels that it will need to be replaced at some time in the near future.
The new city budget goes into effect on July 1st. Well, the Stuntman Hall of Fame is the focus of a national cable television program, and the high school honor roll is released, and we'll have those stories when Channel 6 News continues.
If it's housewares, fabrics, or school supplies you need, think Sprouse. If it's bed and bath items or health and beauty aids you're looking for, think Sprouse. For greeting cards, footwear, or toys, think Sprouse. For more values more often, think Sprouse. Now for extra savings, look for these special tags, Manager's Special Purchases, Jackpot Buys, and Discount Food and Snacks. Sprouse.
Today is a very good day. You've got a new set of wheels and a license to drive. You, my friend, are on a roll. Can your life get better than this? You bet your spandex because you're going to McDonald's to wheel some delicious deals. Only 59 cents for a regular hamburger, 69-cent cheeseburger, and 99 cents for a chicken fajitas or breakfast burrito. Wow. You ask someone to pinch you. Ah, a volunteer. Yes, your life is good. And at these prices, it only gets better at McDonald's today.
Best Value Foods, stress-free shopping where the service is unbelievable. The Grand County Board of Education will hold its regular meeting this Wednesday evening, and first on the agenda is a public hearing to discuss the final approval of the district's current budget, which ends this month. According to district officials, the budget now looks much better than it did when first proposed 1 year ago. The addition of 85 students to the system helped out by providing more state revenues sent to the schools on a per-pupil basis. And the added student population fit well into the current classroom setup and did not result in any overcrowding. The budget for the 1992-93 fiscal year, normally approved at this time of the year, will be delayed a month. The reason is that state assessments of oil and gas properties has fallen behind schedule, and the state cannot give local areas accurate figures on what the property tax collection will be until sometime in July. In other business, the school board will also discuss the construction of new bus barns for their property purchased earlier this year near the high school. The appointment of a new principal at the Helen M. Knight School will be discussed, and a report from the Staff Morale Committee. That meeting gets underway Wednesday evening beginning at 6 p.m. at the Board of Education building on 4th East. Petitioners for the initiative to change the form of county government say the response over the weekend to their table at the post office was positive, and they are near the number of signatures needed to place it on the ballot. But they say they will continue petitioning through the end of the month to make sure they garner enough names. The people staffing the table Friday and Saturday say they haven't counted the total number of names they have so far gathered, but they believe the total is around the 450 names needed, representing 15% of the total county vote in the last governor's election. The proposal would abolish the current county commission and substitute a 7-member council-type body. The seats would be nonpartisan and would be clearly part-time, and council members would be limited to 2 consecutive 4-year terms. There would also be a recall procedure to allow voters to remove them from office. The petitions must be presented to the county clerk's office, and if there is enough signatures, it will pass to the current county commission. They, in turn, could place it on the November ballot or wait up to 18 months to call a special election. The Stuntman Hall of Fame and director John Hagner was the focus of a recent cable television special edition of the Stunt Masters. The show, recounting the history of the stunts and the role they have historically played in both action films and comedies, came to Moab to interview Hagner and get his views on what made the early stuntmen and women a special breed.
John Hagner is founder and director of the Hollywood Stuntmen's Hall of Fame and Museum in Moab, Utah. As a collector of stunt memorabilia and a former stuntman himself, Hagner holds a special fondness for the first stuntmen, many of whom were actually the stars of films.
They were acrobats that came from circus. There were sports figures so far as track and tumbling and all that was concerned. They let them do a lot of their own stunts. Buster Keaton, Larry Seaman, and those kind of actors.
Hagner moved the Stuntman's Hall of Fame to Moab 4 years ago. It's located on First North and First East and is open to the public 7 days a week. Grand County High School fourth quarter honor roll has been posted, and Channel 6 would like to join with the rest of Grand County in congratulating the students who earned perfect 4.0 grade point averages. They include graduating seniors Carrie Engelbright, Hannah Hancock, Russell Nelson, and Alice White. Juniors include Raylyn Gwynn, Deborah Holyoke, Kiri Wagstaff, and Paul Welling. Sophomores were Sheila Adamson, Melissa Bentley, Mark Poe, and Kristen Udy. And ninth graders included Christopher Adkison, Dallin Holyoke, and Nicole Wagstaff. Well, up next is the Canyon Country weather forecast when Channel 6 News continues.
For the best RV camp park in Moab, it's Holiday Haven, with oversized spaces to accommodate the largest RV and cool, comfortable tent sites under mature shade trees, all with a convenient central location. Holiday Haven is also Moab's finest mobile home park that offers country living in the city, an established park with pool, playground, laundry facilities, and a retired section. For comfortable RV or mobile home living, it's Holiday Haven, 400 North, 5th West.
Through the seasons, through the miles, through the rough country of southeastern Utah, we get you through. We're GTE. We're your telephone company.
It is now officially summer, and the temperatures show it. Saturday evening was the official start of summer with the summer equinox. The weekend weather in the valley was what you would expect, with hot, dry winds, temperatures above 100 degrees, and the heat continued on Monday with readings again above 100 and only 1% humidity. Expect more of the same here in southeast Utah. The official National Weather Service forecast for Moab and Canyon Country calls for hot, dry conditions through Tuesday. Look for afternoon highs around 100, with overnight lows dropping to about 60 degrees. By Wednesday, the heat should still be here, but there could be some moisture in the air with partly cloudy skies and temperatures in the upper 90s. The long-range forecast calls for the partly cloudy and warm days to continue right on through the weekend. Well, that's news of Moab and Canyon Country. I'm Dee Tranter reporting. Have a good day.
Welcome to the Channel 6 News. I'm Jim Kelly reporting. The BLM says they will impose restrictions on the Slick Rock Trail area to prevent what they say is degradation of the land. The school district, for the first time in 6 years, will have a balanced budget this year, and the Grand County Democratic Party says it will not support the change of government initiative. We'll have those stories when the Channel 6 News continues.
Randy, I just had a thought.
That's just what I was thinking.
And so went the creation of Canyon Country Realty, doing business in the code of the Old West.
A symbol of strength, a symbol of stability, a symbol of longevity. First Western National Bank, embodying the values of Canyon Country for 30 years.
Make Nelson's Heating and Refrigeration your first step to cool this summer with one of their new swamp coolers. Nelson's also offers parts, service, and installation. And if it's appliances you're after, Nelson's proudly presents Whirlpool and Maytag brands for low energy use, fewer repairs, and great warranties. Nelson's Heating and Refrigeration, serving Moab for 30 years, 1070 Bowling Alley Lane.
The Bureau of Land Management is releasing emergency rules to protect what they say is damage to the Slick Rock area along Sand Flats Road. That's the word from Grand Resource Area Manager Brad Palmer. The Slick Rock area is one of the most popular destinations for visitors who camp there while biking, hiking, or jeeping the canyons. But the enormous increase in visitors, coupled with a lack of education as to the fragile nature of the desert environment, has led to what the agency says is a critical situation. Palmer told Channel 6 that the agency will immediately move to ban cutting down firewood in the area and will also head in the direction of restricting off-road traffic to existing roads and trails.
We have the potential to destroy the resources up there that are what attract people. And so we're trying to take some emergency action to try to prevent that in the future. We don't have a lot of activity right now because it's so hot, but as we get closer to Labor Day and fall, we'll probably see increased numbers just like we did early this spring.
What are the things that you're considering doing?
Right now, we're putting together, there's a news release that will come out in the Times Independent this Thursday that essentially closes the area to any type of firewood cutting, post cutting, anything where there's going to be any type of manipulation to the vegetation or the trees that are up there. During Memorial Day, we had several instances where people were cutting down green trees and using them for firewood. We had people that were cutting down trees because they were in the way of their trailer and they needed someplace to move it in, or it was in the way of their vehicle because they couldn't get to where they wanted to go. And in a lot of other situations, if they couldn't get there on the existing roads, then they just drove cross-country to try to get to their favorite spot.
The agency says it was the Memorial Day weekend that showed how bad the problem can be, and that their office has been getting a number of complaints and questions from local residents.
A lot of it stems from the activity that we saw there during Memorial Day. We had many people come into the office and express concern about what they were seeing in that Slick Rock area. Even the county commissioners expressed concern that Dave Knutson told me that he never expected that he would ever be the one to recommend that we take some type of emergency action, but even Dave could support that.
A big part of the problem is the indiscriminate vehicle traffic over the desert, where damage is being done to the land unnecessarily.
We're going to be coming out with an emergency restriction to designated roads, trails, parking, and camping areas that'll come out in a Federal Register notice about the 1st of August.
And that will go into effect next fall?
That will go into effect as of September 1st.
And the Red Rock Four-Wheelers has been helping the agency determine which trails should be kept open.
The Red Rock Four-Wheelers provide a valuable tool. In a sense, they are volunteers. They have the equipment, a lot of the equipment that's necessary to get on some of these off-road trails so that we can look at them and see if it's appropriate to keep them open. And they have an interest in that area because their organization and the people that belong to the organization are there to utilize their equipment. But it's interesting, most of the problems that we've had in this area don't come from the organized groups like the Red Rock Four-Wheelers. They come from people that are not part of an organized group, that maybe don't have a real appreciation for how fragile the desert environment is in this area. Those are the people that we're going to have to educate.
But the agency says they won't be successful unless other entities, including the state and local governments, back them as well.
And we've got a lot of volunteer help that's helping us right now identify the roads and trails that we should continue to leave open. We are on the County Commission's agenda for July, for their July meeting, and what we're going to ask for is a resolution from the County Commission supporting our action in that Slick Rock area. The area essentially encompasses the public lands in between the two WSAs, in between Negro Bill and Mill Creek Gang and WSA, and then extends to the east to the spring, which is the trailhead for the Porcupine Rim Trail. So it's just kind of that corridor between the two WSAs up to the spring. That's where we're receiving most of the impacts.
The future of the Slick Rock area has been debated for years now, with some calling for more restrictions and others calling for opening it up to development.
Last few years, with the influx of people coming, there's been a lot of pressures and pulling on the BLM to, one, tighten down restrictions, and on the other hand, also to keep things as wide open as possible. Mm-hmm. Is this an indication that you're leaning in the direction and going to be moving in the direction of more restrictions?
It may be in certain areas. We had to take, we're taking some action on the river corridor because of the numbers of people that we're seeing there and the impact on the resource. You know, we would essentially be cutting our own throat if we continue to allow the resources to deteriorate just because of the sheer numbers of people that are coming here. Where we have made the decision that Moab's maybe our destiny is tourism and filming and some of these low impact uses, if we destroy the very resource that people come here for, maybe they'll quit coming. And so we're trying to take some early action to prevent that.
Ann Palmer says the agency will begin giving citations to campers and others violating the new rules. The area affected runs up to the spring at the head of Porcupine Rim Trail. For the first time in years, the Grand County School District is not running in the red, and local Democratic Party leaders will not endorse the change of government initiative. We'll have those stories when the Channel 6 News continues.
How do you have an instant party? Just buy a sack of subs at Subway. Take them home and serve them family style. It's more fun because everyone gets a taste of everything and no one has to cook. So if unexpected guests drop by unexpectedly or you don't feel like cooking dinner, pick up a sack of subs at Subway. We specialize in solving emergencies with food.
For more information on these and other fine sandwiches, visit the Subway near you.
B. Osborne's is the most complete bookstore in southeast Utah.
Your complete bookstore for magazines, books, maps, special orders from anywhere, magazines from Europe, newspapers from major cities of the U.S. Need a special gift for that person on your list who is hard to please? Get a gift certificate from B. Osborne's and let them please themselves. B. Osborne's Books and Magazines, 50 South Main in Moab, your bookstore and more.
Alpine Air has just gotten bigger with their faster, smoother Cheyenne 3. Expanded their schedule for timely connections and broadened their horizons to include Grand Junction, Colorado. Moab is now more accessible through Salt Lake to the west and Grand Junction to the rest of the world. Alpine Air, your Moab connection.
For the first time in 6 years, the Grand County School District will not lose money this year. That was the word from Board of Education officials who are getting ready to finish up the budget for the fiscal year 1991-92, which ends this month. Total combined revenues to the district equaled expenses, meaning the district has not run in the red. Although school board officials have been working since the mid-'80s to keep costs down, this is the first time since then that there is no deficit. New school district superintendent Richard Averett gave some of the reasons for the good financial news.
Well, there are a number of reasons for the increases. One thing that we've had is the number of students who've joined our district. And with the new numbers, with the increase in numbers, of course, we have greater state revenue. In addition, the food service department has done an outstanding job this year and not run in the red. So by balancing their budget, we, of course, have increased revenue. When you have extra students coming in, you also have student-related costs that come from the state. We've had more public law 874 monies. There are other courses, other sources also that have likewise generated more funds, and we've been very judicious in our expenditures this year.
Normally, it would appear that more students come in, there'd also be more expenses for the district. Were there?
There were additional expenses, yes. The big difference, of course, being by maintaining a reasonable class size and absorbing some of those new youngsters in already established classes and only bringing in a few additional teachers, we've been able to maintain a good balance.
But keeping costs down in the future will not be easy because of the clamor within the county to improve education here, and that will be expensive. Everett says the school district has to be judicious in its spending.
I think we'll have to be very careful in our expenses. I believe that over the last 6 or 7 years there have been some concerted efforts to make sure the district stays as close as they can to the very limited budget we have, and this year it's been successful with the efforts of the staff. For example, we've saved money this year in insurance because the staff has been more judicious in going to the doctor when they really needed to. So they're to be congratulated for that, as well as the food service department, making sure that we stayed in the red. So it's been a real combined effort of all employees.
Averett was hired last month to succeed Glenn Taylor, who is taking a job in Richfield, and Averett says he sees real potential for the school system in Grand County.
I'm impressed. There's a great potential here. The people who have come in to explain their concerns have been rather repetitive of the things they've said. I believe the board and myself will be able, with the management team and with the staff, to address some of those concerns and make some major changes with, I won't say minimal effort, but with some effort. But in certain areas will make a significant change in this district because those interests that I hear are being repeated time and time again.
What are those concerns that are repeated?
Well, for one thing, they would like to make sure that the students have every opportunity to learn. So we as a teaching staff, as educators, need to make sure that we change some of the things we're doing in the classroom to guarantee more student success, because success breeds success. We need to provide for the teachers the opportunities for learning themselves, for their own personal growth. And as they grow and become enthusiastic about learning, so will the students.
The school district will finalize its current budget this Wednesday evening. The new budget for the fiscal year beginning in July will not be ready for a few more weeks. Because the district is still waiting for figures from the state of Utah on how much tax revenue will be available from oil and gas facilities throughout the county. That budget should be ready by the end of next month. The drawings for big game permits in Utah will take place Wednesday and Friday, June 24th and 26th, but it may be a while before local hunters can find out if they have been picked. The results of the drawing will be available Monday morning, June 29th, and will be posted at the Price office of the Division of Wildlife Resources. But because of the volume of permits, the DWR says they will be unable to answer telephone requests for information about the drawing results and encourages hunters to make the trip to Price. Otherwise, hunters may wait weeks for notification by mail. Successful applicants will receive their permits by mail also. Supporters of the initiative to change the form of county government say petitioning has gone well and that they have received a good response from the public. But one group that says it will not go along with the initiative is the Grand County Democratic Party. Meeting last Thursday, the Democratic Central Committee passed a resolution saying they will not support the plan to transform the current 3-member commission into a 7-person council-type body. Though some Democratic leaders have complained about what they term a lack of representation under the current form of government, the Central Committee decided to pass on endorsing the initiative because elections would be nonpartisan. The new plan would have county government candidates all run as independents through a petition process, and those running for office would not be identified by party affiliation. The Democratic leaders decided not to support the initiative because they believe the county is run better through partisan, that is, Democratic and Republican Party activity. They added that the political party form of government contributes to checks and balances and makes available a political platform and philosophy. The Central Committee vote was close to unanimous. The one member voting against the committee decision was Democratic Chairman David Beerscheid. Up next is the Canyon Country weather forecast when the Channel 6 News continues.
For all your insurance needs in Moab, it's Central Utah Insurance. Home, auto, business, and life. You can depend on the fast, friendly service at Central Utah Insurance, 471 South Main.
See the sparkling jewel at Certified Ford, a new 92 Mercury Topaz 2-door GS. Sporty with a 5-speed stick, luggage rack, and 7-spoke aluminum wheels. Comfortable with cloth seats, cruise control, and the comfort convenience option group. Cool with air, AM/FM cassette, and a $400 cold cash rebate. See it, drive it, love it for under $10,000 at Certified Ford, your hometown dealer.
Through the seasons, through the miles, through the rough country of southeastern Utah, we get you through. We're GTE. We're your telephone company.
Hot, dry weather stayed in the valley on Tuesday, with afternoon highs climbing up to above 105 degrees by late afternoon. And it should stay warm, but not always so sunny over the next few days. The official National Weather Service forecast for Moab and Canyon Country calls for partly cloudy skies through Thursday, with afternoon thermometer readings up above the 100-degree mark and overnight lows around 65. The long-term forecast calls for the partly cloudy skies to stay around through Saturday and Sunday, with mercury readings ranging from lows around 60s to highs at the century mark. And that's the news of Moab and Canyon Country. I'm Jim Kelly, reminding you to keep on smiling.